I thought we were live. Hold on a sec. No, it says setting up my meeting.
It says it's now live on Facebook.
Okay, so it's setting up. Yep, okay, so we must be good on Facebook. And I'll admit all.
Shabbat Shalom, friends. Good to have you here with us. We're going to start in a minute or two. I know we have some people on Zoom and some people watching on Facebook, as has been our custom. By adding the Zoom option, hopefully we can reach a couple more people. And it also, of course, allows us to see each other and interact with each other a little bit. So I'm just going to give it a minute or two so that we're not starting without people. Thank you to Brian for being our tech assistant today. And I'm making sure I'm all set up. So okay. So Shabbat Shalom. I see now our friends on Facebook and I see our friends on Zoom. I see Lenny and Sharon and Stacy. I see you, Larry. Shabbat Shalom. And Goldie. I know you're here, and some numbers I don't know. Maybe Ivan is one of them. That's a possibility. Maybe it's Hal. Shabbat Shalom to the Sanders. And so we come to our Shabbat morning, and Shabbat Shalom to the Kennedys. Glad you're here. As you are well aware at this point, this is our way of joining together on Shabbat morning and sharing in Shabbat together. This is the best we can do for now. And hopefully this reality is not for the long haul. And we're able to be back in our sanctuary sooner rather than later. But for now, this is our best option. So Shabbat Shalom again to everyone who's joining on Facebook. I see Michael Goldis, I see Howard Gordon, and everyone who's joining. If you have the prayer book at home, great. And I'll share some page numbers as we go. If you don't have the prayer book, that's also fine. You'll find a lot of the melodies to be very familiar. And this way we can pray together and learn together and spend some time together, even across screens. So that's what we'll do now on this windy, blustery Shabbat morning in mid-May. We begin, as we always begin, with an expression of gratitude, thanking God for the gift of a brand new day and a fresh start. Modeh ani lefanecha, if you're following in a prayer book, page 186. Modeh ani lefanecha, melech chai v'kayam, shechazarta bi nishmati bechemla, rabba emunatecha. Our morning blessings continue as we turn together to page 194, if you're following in the book, where we say together, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher yatzar et ha'adam b'chokhmah uvaravo nikavim chalulim. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe, who formed the human body with skill, creating the body's many pathways and openings. It is well known before your throne of glory that if one of them be wrongly opened or closed, it would be impossible to endure and stand before you. Blessed are you, Adonai, who heals all flesh, working wondrously. Baruch atah Adonai, rofei chol basar, umafli la'asot. On page 196, Elohai neshama shenatata bi tahorahi. Ata virata, ata yitzarta, ata nefachta bi, ve'ata mishamra b'kirbi. My God, the soul you have given me is pure. You created it, you shaped it, you breathed it into me, and you protect it within me. For as long as my soul is within me, I offer thanks to you, Adonai, my God, and God of my ancestors, source of all creation, sovereign of all souls. Praised are you, Adonai, in whose hand is every living soul and the breath of humankind. Baruch atah Adonai asher biado nefesh kol chai v'ruach kol basar ish. As we arrive at Nisim B'chol Yom, this series of blessings that has us acknowledge the Nisim, the miracles that are part of our lives, miracles large and small. Our custom has been to share with each other our own miraculous moments, large or small. Maybe you have good news. Maybe you have something you'd like to share with us as a group, something you learned, something you saw. So you could do that in the chat. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. You could do that in the chat or in the comments on Facebook. And this way, remind us that there's a lot of good in our world, that our world is not just illness or political division or violence. So we would love to see your good news, your Nisim, as we join together in Nisim B'chol Yom, page 198, if you're following in the prayer book. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan l'sefvi vina le'avchin ben yom uvein laila. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam pokeach ivrim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam matir asurim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam zokef kifufim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam rokarat al hamayim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamechim mitzadei gaver. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam malbish arumim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hanoten le'aif koach. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Ha'ma'avir sheina me'enai, u'tnuma me'afapai. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, she'asani b'tselem Elohim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, she'asani ben chorin. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, she'asani Yisrael. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, Ozer Yisrael bigvura. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, Oter Yisrael betifara. And as we do each Shabbat morning, we join in the blessing for the study of Torah, as we say Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe, who hallows us with mitzvot, commanding us to engage with words of Torah. If you're following in a prayer book, we are on page 206, and there we find a reading that comes to us straight from the Mishnah, a reminder of those mitzvot, those actions that can never fully be repaid. These are things that are limitless, of which a person enjoys the fruit of the world while the principle remains in the world to come. They are honoring one's father and mother, engaging in deeds of compassion, arriving early for study, morning and evening, dealing graciously with guests, visiting the sick, providing for the wedding couple, accompanying the dead for burial, being devoted in prayer, and making peace among people. But the study of Torah encompasses them all. As our service continues, we will join together in Chatzi Kaddish, if you're following in our book, page 224. Yitzgadal v'yitzgadash shemei Rabbah Bialma divra chirute v'yamlich malchute. B'chayechon uvyom echon. Uvchaye techol beit Yisrael. Bagala, bagala. Uvizman kariv. B'yimeru. Amen. Yehi shemei rabba mivorach. Le'olam ulal me'almaya. Yitbarach. Yitbarach v'yishtabach. V'yitpar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalal. Shemei dekudisha b'richu. Le'olam min kol birchata v'shirata. Tushbechata v'nechemata. Dami ram bi'alma. V'yimeru. Amen. Lie, 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 lie. Lie, 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 lie. Lie, 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 lie. Lie, 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 lie. Lie, 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 lie. Baruch hu et Adonai hamivorach hamivorach. Baruch Adonai hamivorach leolam leolam vaed. Praise Adonai, to whom our praise is due. Praise Adonai, to whom our praise is due. Praise Adonai, to whom our praise is due, now and forever. We continue with a translation of Yotzer Or as we thank God for all works of creation. Praised are you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe, creator of light and darkness, who makes peace and fashions all things. In mercy, you illumine the world and those who live upon it. In your goodness, you daily renew creation. How numerous are your works, Adonai. In wisdom, you form them all, filling the earth with your creatures. Be praised, Adonai, our God, for the excellent work of your hands. And for the lights you created, may they glorify you. Shine a new light upon Zion, that we all may swiftly merit its radiance. Praised are you, Adonai, creator of all heavenly lights. Baruch atah Adonai Yotzer HaMeorot. We join in singing Shema together. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kivod Malchuto Leolam Vaed. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha u'v'chol nafshecha u'v'chol meodecha. Ve'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam b'shivtecha b'veitecha Uvlechtecha v'derech, u'shachbecha uvkumecha, u'kshartam liot al yadecha, v'hayu letotafot beineinecha, u'ktavtam al mizuzot beitecha u'visharecha. Leman tizkeru v'asitem et kol mitzvotai, v'yitem kedoshim leloechem. Ani Adonai Elohechem. Asher hotzeiti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim, liot lachem Elohim. Ani Adonai Elohechem. If people fall, can they not also rise? If they break away, can they not return? The stork in the sky knows when to migrate. The dove and the swallow know the season of return. What human instinct knows the time to turn back? What cue sparks the conscience of the soul? We pray to sense this day anew, attuned to the call of sacred living. With that, we continue with our song of freedom. Mi chamocha, page 240. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai. Mi chamocha nedar ba'kodesh. Nora tehilot o seifele. Shira chadasha shibechu geulim. Leshimcha al sefatayam. Yachad kulam hodu, v'himlichu v'yameru. Adonai imloch le'olam va'ed. Sor Yisrael, kuma be'ezrat Yisrael, uftechenu mecha, Yehuda ve'Yisrael. Go aleinu Adonai tziva'ot shemo. Kedosh Yisrael, Baruch atah Adonai, Gal Yisrael. With that, we continue with our tefillah. If you are following in the prayer book at home, which maybe you are, our tefillah can be found beginning on page 242. If you're able to rise, I'll ask you to please rise, which I will do as well. Carefully. Adonai sifatai tiftachu fi agitehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu v'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'Konei Hakol, V'Zocher Chastei Avot V'Imahot, Umevi Gula Livnei V'Nehem, Leman Shemo Be'ahava, Melech Ozer U'Moshia U'Magen. Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham V'Ezrat Sarah. Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai, Mechayei HaKol atah Rav Lehoshia, Morid Hatal, Mechalkel Chaim Bechesed, Mechayei HaKol Berachamim Rabim. Somech noflim verofeh cholim, umatir asurim, umekayem emunato, lishenei afar, michamocha ba'al givurot, umidom melach, melech memit umechayei, umatzmiag Yeshua, V'ne'eman atah lachayot hakol. Baruch atah Adonai, Mechayei hakol. Nikadesh et shimcha ba'olam, Keshem shemakdishim oto b'shmei marom, Kakatuv al yad nevi'echa, V'kara ze el ze ve'amar, Kadosh, 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 Adonai Tzevaot, Melochol haaretz, Kivodo, Adir, Adirenu, Adonai, Adonenu, Ma'adir Shimcha b'chol haaretz, Baruch Kivod Adonai, Mimkomo. Echad hu Eloheinu, hu Avinu hu Malkeinu, hu Moshienu v'hu Yashmienu, b'rachamav le'enei kol chai. Ani Adonai Elohechem, yimloch Adonai le'olam, Elohai Yitzion, le'dor v'ador. Hallelujah. Ledor vador nagid God lecha, ula netzach netzachim kedushatcha nagdish, V'shivchacha Eloheinu, mipinu lo yamush le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai ha'el hakadosh. You may be seated wherever you are. All right, how are we? Everyone feeling good? Okay. On Shabbat, we are meant to express gratitude, to turn from stress and anxiety and some of the pain of the world at this moment in time to a place of gratitude, a place of blessing, and thinking about the ways in which there is good in our own lives, in our own homes, in our own selves. And we're meant to articulate that level of thanks. The words of Modim Anachnu Lach help us to do exactly that on page 256. We acknowledge with thanks that you are Adonai, our God, and the God of our ancestors forever. You are the rock of our lives and the shield of our salvation in every generation. Let us thank you and praise you for our lives which are in your hands, for our souls which are in your care, for your miracles that we experience every day, and for your wondrous deeds and favors at every time of day, evening, morning, and noon. O good one whose mercies never end, O compassionate one whose kindness never fails, we forever put our hope in you. For all these things, O sovereign, let your name be forever praised and blessed, O God, our Redeemer and Helper. Let all who live affirm you and praise your name in truth. Blessed are you, Adonai, your name is goodness, and you are worthy of thanksgiving. Baruch atah Adonai hatov shimcha ulecha na'eh lehodot. With that, we continue with a prayer for peace, for greater peace in our world, for greater level of togetherness in our world. We know well, especially now, that there continues to be violence in our world. And we pray for a greater sense of compassion and kindness across every line, across the borders that separate nations, across racial lines, political lines, those lines that we imagine separate us, but in fact are, of course, manufactured, fabricated lines. We are all people, and we have a shared mission and a shared destiny as we join together in our age-old prayer for greater shalom in our world, greater peace in our world. Sim shalom. Sim shalom tova uvracha. Sim shalom tova uvracha. Sim shalom tova uvracha. Sim shalom tova uvracha. Chen v'chesed v'rachamim. Chen v'chesed v'rachamim. Sim shalom tova uvracha. Sim shalom tova uvracha. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Amecha. Sim shalom tova uvracha. Sim shalom tova uvracha. Grant us peace, your most precious gift, O eternal source of peace, and give us the will to proclaim its message to all the peoples of the earth. Bless our country as a safeguard of peace, its advocate among the nations. May contentment reign within our borders, health and happiness within our homes. strengthen the bonds of friendship and fellowship among all the inhabitants of our world, plant virtue in every soul, and may the love of your name hallow every home and every heart. Praised are you, Adonai, who blesses your people with peace. Baruch atah Adonai, hamivarech et amo Yisrael, bashalom. At this important moment in our service, we pause in order to offer a prayer for healing for those in our lives, those in our immediate and extended community who may be in need of healing. And perhaps there is someone in your life, someone dear to you who is hurting in some way as we arrive at this Shabbat. Misha Berach becomes our opportunity to pray on their behalf and pray together for the sake of their return to health and strength and well-being once more. As a congregation on this morning, our prayers are with Ileana Cohn, Rick Ulrich, Shirley Lewis, Lynn Romsberg, Amy Martyr, Millie Rosenfeld, Roxanne Forth, Jerry Dreskin, Bruce Berkowitz, Ann Marsden, Stephen Trombecki, and Steve Stulak. If there's a name you'd like to add to this list, someone for whom you offer a Misha Berach, a prayer for healing, you can either carry that name, hold that name in your heart right now. You can add that name in the chat, on Zoom, in the comments, on Facebook, as we join together in our prayer for healing, Misha Berach. Misha Berach Avotenu Mikor HaBracha Leimotenu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Misha Berach Imotenu Mikor HaBracha Lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen. On that note, we'll pause for a few precious moments now for the sake of our own personal prayers and reflections. Ose shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru, imru, amen. Ya'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Okay, so this is the part of our service when traditionally we have a little bit of a conversation about our Torah portion, and we hear our Torah portion for the week, and that's proven to be somewhat tricky in our new reality here, but we try nonetheless, and it's always the right time to learn some Torah, to talk Torah, and so that's what we'll do. Let's do our best. That's all we can do, right? Right. Okay. So first of all, where are we in the Torah? We are in the book of Leviticus. We're making our way actually toward the end of the book of Leviticus. We're going to be there within the next couple of weeks. And here we arrive at a portion from near the back of Leviticus called Emor. Emor, which means to speak, to say. And the portion has various elements to it. It has something to say about appropriate and inappropriate relationships. It has something to say about our keeping kosher and what that looks like. It will have something to say about the types of sacrifices our ancestors would make. But I think a piece that's maybe particularly compelling, at least now, is the fact that Emor offers a kind of review of our holiday calendar. It gives us a recap of all of those holidays that are at the heart of Jewish life. And therefore, we can sort of think about this in various ways. One, it shows that, yet again, the Israelites are not this sort of mythic, overly pious group. Here they are having to be reminded of which holidays to observe and when, showing us yet again that the Israelites are people. They are not saints, they're not sages necessarily, they are human beings. And they too have to work at faith and Jewish practice. And they too are on a kind of journey toward greater piety. So maybe that's something we could sort of dip into. It also, I think the sort of review of the holiday calendar becomes so important because it comes right in the middle of the Torah, as if to say these holidays are really in the middle, at the heart of, at the center of our Jewish experience. That when we sort of line up the various holidays and their storyline, each of them, we really sort of tell the story of Judaism, right? It's a story of joy. It's a story of sadness. It's a story of Jewish pride. It's a story of thankfulness, right? If you go through each of the holidays, it sort of pieces together this puzzle of what it means to be a Jew. But the last piece, I think the most important piece with this review of the holiday calendar, is the very idea of order, structure. Right here, the Israelites are, they're in the middle of the wilderness. They're making their way toward the land of Israel. They're in this kind of no man's land. And here God is helping them, Moses is helping them to have some kind of structure in their lives. That life is not all sort of random and amorphous. That actually Jewish life is meant to be structured and orderly. We have beginnings and endings. We move in sort of a linear fashion through our year. And it gives not only structure, but a great sense of meaning to each day, week, month. So I'm going to take one quick breath, and I'm going to encourage you to put questions or comments in the chat or in the comments. If you're watching on Facebook, if you're one of the tens of millions watching on Facebook around the world, now's your chance. And on Zoom, you can ask questions too. This sort of holiday calendar, giving us structure, giving us order. And of course, you know, one of the reasons that resonates right now is that we have these days that are all just blending together. Every day feels somewhat the same. And we're even losing track. Is it Thursday? Is it Tuesday? Is it Monday? What day is it? What month is it? And Judaism is meant to be something of antithetical to that kind of thinking. Each day has its own identity and narrative. We need structure as Jews. We need order. So I'm going to take questions or comments. Miss Sue Bean. I saw in My Jewish Learning, it lists a bunch of holidays. It doesn't mention Rosh Hashanah. Is that an edited version, or does the Torah indeed pass on Rosh Hashanah? No. If Rosh Hashanah is not mentioned in Emor, let's take a quick peek. I have so many screens open in front of me. Of course, the Torah will have a lot to say about Rosh Hashanah, but is it mentioned in this recap is Jim's question. I'm looking at Leviticus 23. And no, it is in Leviticus chapter 23, verse 24 is a little bit of a mention of Rosh Hashanah. So Rosh Hashanah is there. My Jewish Learning, it's a great website, by the way. It's a fabulous website. And sometimes it's just giving us sort of a broad overview. So really all of the holidays are listed there in Leviticus 23, reminding us that to be a Jew is to have order, to have structure in our lives, that we're meant to be cognizant of the passage of time, that we're meant to mark the passage of time, that it means something that we're alive to mark the passage of time, that nothing is random, nothing is without meaning, that our days have meaning, our weeks have meaning. And indeed, we mark the end of each day. We mark the end of each week with Shabbat. We mark the beginning and end of each month, Rosh Chodesh. We mark the beginning and end of each year, Rosh Hashanah. And these are all so very much at the heart of what it means to be a Jew, to be aware of the passing of time, the changing of the seasons. Okay, let me see. Chat. Goldie's saying it's both linear and cyclical, right? So that's true, right? We move in a line all the way through our year, from beginning to end, through the corpus of all of our holidays, and then we go right back and we do it all again. So once again, Judaism sort of giving this sort of contradiction to kind of work out, right? Yet again, right? That we're constantly sort of in this space of would-be contradiction, right? We have such joy as Jews, we have such sadness as Jews, right? We have such a sense of community, but we have such very specific sort of mitzvot that we're meant to be doing on our own. Larry's saying the holidays connect us to both our past, but also our present and future. That's exactly right. That's one of the things that each of the holidays shares. What holidays besides Hanukkah were added after the Bible was written? That's is that Brian? BS. Yeah, Brian. I wasn't sure who was BS. I'll leave that alone. Okay, so holidays that were added after the whole Bible, you're saying. So how about Tu B'Shvat? Was only added in the time of the Mishnah, or Tisha B'Av, for instance, only added upon the destruction of the Second Temple, or a holiday, relatively minor holiday that we're about to mark, Lag BaOmer, right? The 33rd day of the counting of the Omer is going to happen this coming week, and that is, as far as Jewish holidays are concerned, very new, as in only about 1,500 years old. People say different things about the meaning of Lag BaOmer. If you're in my Talmud class yesterday, we talked about it a little, as one possible meaning of Lag BaOmer is that it marks the yard site of a very famous rabbi of the Talmud named Shimon Bar Yochai. That's possibly sort of why we make a big deal out of Lag BaOmer, because he was sort of an iconic rabbi, and there's some rather classic stories about him in the Talmud. Other people say that there was a great plague that was playing out, and it was on that day that the plague ended. And of course, there's a connection maybe to be made there from that moment to the moment we're living right now, as sort of a time of where we all feel sort of the plague of illness in our own way. So yes, those are holidays that were added well after the Bible was closed, and obviously other sort of Israeli sort of central holidays like Yom HaAtzmaut, Yom HaZikaron, Yom Yerushalayim. These are all quote unquote new holidays. Good question from BS. I mean, from Brian. So looking at your questions on Zoom and on Facebook. Other questions? So that's a little bit about Amor. And before we move on with our service, I wanted to share with you something because I came across this yesterday and I was really taken by it, and I have no idea sort of who and where to share it. So I'm going to just share it here. My professor, Larry Hoffman, who some of you know, he's a rabbi and he has a PhD. He's really considered sort of the preeminent liturgist, which means studying the history of prayer and sort of the science and sociology of prayer. He's a professor at HUC, and he's just beyond brilliant and inspiring. You're probably more familiar with some of his writings than you realize. He's behind Mishkan Tefillah and so much else as an editor. So this weekend was supposed to be the ordination of the new class of rabbis and cantors at HUC. And one of the many tragedies of this time we're living in now is that that's now happening virtually, which is such a shame. This is really a beautiful and highly dramatic ceremony, usually either in Temple Emmanuel in New York City or Central Synagogue in New York City, with many, many hundreds of people there, and sort of the high drama of those places. And now it's happening over Zoom, which just doesn't replace anything, as I think we can all agree. So I just want to share, he wrote this long letter on Facebook to this year's graduates. And I'm not gonna share the whole thing. If you email me, if you want to see the whole thing afterwards, just send me an email or a text and I'll send it to you. I just want to read a little bit of it to you. This, dear ordinees, is what we have been preparing you for all these years of Bible, Talmud, history, theology, liturgy, and Nusach. The certainty that we human beings are protagonists on a vaster scene and champions of a high and invincible cause. You might think that here in America, where your ordination is taking place, people must already know that. But we don't. We haven't known it for some time now. The official national rhetoric has mired us in just the opposite supposition, that the only thing of consequence is our own national interests, not any principles at all. And within those interests, it is increasingly the interests of the rich and powerful that have mattered, no one else's. Even as I write these words, 1/5 of America's children may not have enough to eat, and the Senate majority is refusing to expand long-term food stamp relief. Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free, wrote Emma Lazarus, for an America that she personified as the mother of exiles. There's a high and invincible cause for you, imaged right out of Jewish tradition. America as the Shekhinah. The Great Seal of the United States portrays the providential eye of the divine with the hope that America will be a new order for the ages, our undertakings earning the favor of God. How much will the mothering presence of God smile upon an America that won't feed her children? And here we are today in a blitzkrieg of disease, bunkered down in the four walls of our respective home fronts, dependent on our own armada of required workers and volunteers, hospital staffs, police, firefighters, ambulance drivers, lettuce pickers, proxy shoppers, and more. They are indeed saving us. A new and American Dunkirk is underway. We all know, however, that the war isn't over. We may be in this for a longer run than we care to imagine. So we wait to hear not just that we will survive, we pretty much know we will, but that the fight is worth it because in the end, we are protagonists on a vaster scene, champions of a high and invincible cause. I'm just going to jump all the way to the end. Again, this is a letter to rabbis and cantors about to be ordained. Remember how much we need your regular reminders of the higher scheme of things. There will be times when everyday banalities completely fill your days, when bureaucratic interests harden your institutional arteries, when the official rhetoric of injustice and untruth starts sounding acceptable, when affairs of business and of state, important as they are, eclipse affairs of the human soul. In all such cases, you are the keeper of the sacred, the source of inspiration that will save us. When we are mired in the muck of hopelessness, lift our eyes to the sky. In the perennial affairs of the moment, remind us of the momentous. Every step of your journey to become rabbis and cantors has been in service to the inherent nobility of human life, the decency that marks us at our best, the high and invincible cause of goodness and holiness, love and compassion, justice and truth. May these certainties sustain you, that you may sustain us. So he's just a remarkable thinker and writer. And I think the letter can be applied not just to these new ordinees, but really to all of us, speaking to our calling here and to the work that should be done by all of us, especially in this complicated moment. Okay, any closing questions, comments? Why don't we leave it there and continue our service with Aleinu, page 586, which will be followed by our Kaddish. Aleinu lishabeach ladon hakol latet gedula leotzer bereshit shelo asanu kigoye haratzot velo samanu kamishpachot adama shelo sam chelkenu kahem vegor aleinu kechol hamonam v'anachnu korim umishtachavim umodim lifnei melech malchei hamlachim hakadosh baruch hu v'nemar v'haya Adonai lemelech al kol haaretz bayom hahu yeh Adonai echad ushemo echad. We do, as we do each service, take the time now to remember the many we've loved and lost. We remember them today with a heavy heart. We think of our loved ones whom death has recently taken from us, those who died at this season in years past, and those whom we have drawn into our hearts with our own. Zichronam livracha, may their memory always be for a blessing. And we do remember on this Shabbat Carol Gold, mother of Dave and Lori Gold, grandmother of Dana and Emily. Norma Sargis, mother of Stephen Horowitz and Heidi Cooperstein, as well as the yahrzeit this Shabbat of Claire Antonoff, Belle Ginsberg, Saul Kaufman, Stanley Lefko, Katie Margolin, Milton Marshall, Nora Mittman, Melvin Morris, Gail Nagin, Samost Haskell, Bessie Slovin, Rita Steibel, Fanny Topper, Maurice Treppel, and I do add on this Shabbat the name of Ahmad Arbery. If there's a name that you would like to add to this list, someone for whom you say Kaddish on this Shabbat, you can do so in the chat or in the comments. As remembering all those we've loved and lost, we rise together for the hallowed words of the mourner's Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei rabbah, b'alma divrach hirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chaychon uv'yomechon uv'chayei techol beit Yisrael, b'agalah uv'yizman kariv yimru amen. Yehei shemei rabbah mivarach le'olam u'mei al-maya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh, yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei dekudesha barichu. Le'elamin kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata tamiran bi'alma v'yimru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav Hu yaseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. As we come to the end of our service now, just a couple of reminders. I mentioned last night that we have been invited to participate in the Iftar, the Ramadan celebration that takes place every day at the end of the day of Ramadan, as hosted by our friends at the Willingboro Mosque. And tonight, as part of the sort of special Iftar, I'm going to be saying a couple words, as will our friend Greg Faulkner and one or two others. The topic is prayer in a time of crisis. So if you'd like to be a part of that, it's all happening over Zoom, and we're going to be sending out the Zoom link a little later today. They wanted to sort of keep that close to the vest for security reasons. So it's only going out a little later today. No religious school tefillah tomorrow in honor of Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day to all the moms and grandmothers out there. And we have a blood drive, which is already sold out. That's this coming week. But coupled with the blood drive is we're doing a collection for JFCS, which you can certainly come and contribute to, non-perishables. Any other closing comments, questions, issues, problems? I'm looking at our respective chats. Michael Gold is wise Rosh Hashanah on the 7th month. We have various beginnings in Judaism. And actually, the beginning of the calendar year is with Passover. So Rosh Hashanah is a beginning, but not the beginning. Brian's saying little Richard just passed away, so we'll have to look into that. That would be very sad. Any requests for a closing song? What do we think? We can sing just about anything. Not anything, but just about anything. In Kelohenu, Adon Olam, classics. Stacy's asking, no, the link's going to go out to everyone. We're sending it to the whole congregation. So not to worry, you'll get the link. You beat me to it. Let's see. Okay. Shalom Aleichem. That's what Michael's saying, I think. And that's a good idea. Shalom Aleichem on page 627. The traditional one. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharei, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malachei Hamlachim HaKadosh, Baruch Hu. Boachem l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon. Mi melech malachei hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Baruch Hu ni l'shalom malachei hashalom malachei elyon. Mi melech malachei hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Seichem l'shalom, malachei hashalom, malachei elyon. Mi melech malachei hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Shabbat shalom, friends. Thanks for being here. I hope to see you very, very soon.
Shabbat shalom, everybody. Have a great.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat
Thank you,
shalom.
Brian, for your help.
Take care, everybody.